Physics 1. Our topic name is Yukawa-Mizon theory. This is the second lecture of Yukawa-Mizon theory. In first lecture we have discussed about the four fundamental forces, force exchange model, what are the virtual particles, what is the Yukawa-Mizon theory. We have thoroughly discussed about these things. In this slide or topic, we will discuss about the scattering. As we know that there are nucleons inside the nucleus, what are the types of the scattering inside the nucleus? This will be the major topic of discussion in these slides. Let us start our topic. As we know that there are the four fundamental forces that act upon us every day, whether we realize it or not. As we discussed in our introductory lecture, that gravitational force, number second electromagnetic force, number third strong nuclear force and weak nuclear force. These are the basically four fundamental forces in the nature or the universe that holds all about our universe, our atoms, nuclear, whatever that is inside this universe. You can take example that we can walk on the earth due to gravitational force, or you can say that we can live on the earth only due to the gravitational force. Electromagnetic force acts on the charges. This force may be attractive or repulsive, as we discussed earlier. Two same charges attract each other or two opposite charges repel each other. This was discussed in our lecture 1. Similarly, when we discuss about the strong nuclear force, basically this is the force that binds our nucleus together. As we know that in our nucleus there are protons and the neutrons. They are known as nucleons. According to electromagnetic force or Coulomb force, two same charges repel each other, so there may be the strong repulsion inside the nucleus, but it is due to the strong nuclear force that binds the nucleus together. We can say that gravitational force, the weak force, electromagnetic force, and the strong forces, all these forces govern everything that happens inside the universe. All the actions, reactions, or everything that is happening in this universe occurs due to these forces. This is the basic diagram for the four fundamental forces that we are discussing that occurs in our nature. As we discussed in our previous slide, that strong force binds the nucleons in the nucleus. It is due to the strong nuclear force that, as we know that protons may repel each other, so nucleus may break down. But it is the strong nuclear force that binds the nucleus together and overcome the repulsive forces. If we discuss about the electromagnetic force, as you can see that electromagnetic force binds the atom together. It is the main difference between strong force and electromagnetic force. The strong force binds the nucleus, while the electromagnetic force, you can say that it binds the atoms together. Weak force mostly occur in radioactive decay. As you have discussed about the radioactive decay in your nuclear physics, this is the spontaneous emission of the radiations. So weak force occurs when there is the spontaneous atom or spontaneous emission of the radiations occur. As you discussed in your radioactivity, that an unstable atom goes to the stable state by the spontaneous emission of the radiation. In these reactions or in these decays, our weak forces exist. Gravitational force binds the solar system. As whenever two masses in the universe attract or repels interact with each other, gravitational force exists during their interactions. You can see that F is equal to G m1 m2 over r square. It means that So we can say that it is due to the gravitational force. If there are two masses m1 and m2 that interacts with each other with the distance r, there must be a gravitational force. It is only the attractive force. Gravitational force is the attractive force. There is the no repulsion effect in the gravitational force. As we discussed in our first slides, that first introductory lectures, that there exists a exchange or virtual particles that occurs everywhere when there are some types of the interaction, whether mass interact with each other, whether there is a decay, or it may be during the interaction of the charges. When there are the interactions of two objects, according to quantum theory, as we discussed earlier, there must be the presence of some exchange particle that carries the force with it. This concept was given by the quantum theory. These all things were discussed in our first introductory lecture. As you can see that gravity that acts between object with masses, particle experience all particle that carry some mass, they can observe gravitational force. Force carrier particles that carry the gravitational force with it is graviton. They are under the study or under the experiments. They are not yet observed. Their range is infinity. They are much weaker. In the strength. As their range are infinity, so their strength is much weak. When we discuss about the weak forces, as we discussed earlier, that weak forces occur when there is the spontaneous emission or during the radioactive decay. Particles mostly experiencing the weak forces are quarks and leptons. In nuclear physics, you have discussed about the quarks and leptons. They are the elementary particles. These are the particles with which protons and neutrons are built up. Their force carrier particles are W plus, W minus, Z0. So you can say that W and Z are the force carrier particles for the weak forces. When there is an interaction of the particles or there is the decay in which weak nuclear force occurs, then the force carrier particles are W and Z particles. These forces are short range forces, but they are much stronger in strength as compared to the gravitational force. When we discuss about the electromagnetic force that acts between charged particles, it may be repulsive or attractive in nature depending upon the charges. As we discussed that electromagnetic force acts between the charges, positive charges or negative charges. Like charges repel each other, as we all know that, and opposite charges attract each other. So when there is the interaction of the particles and electromagnetic force lies there, the force is carried by the force carrier particle, that is photon. Its range is infinity, but it is stronger than weak force and gravity force. Strong forces, these forces are our main interest in the nuclear physics, as we discussed about the behavior of this scattering, about the types of this scattering, how the nucleons in the nucleus interact with each other. So strong nuclear force is our main interest because it binds the nucleus together. The particles that experience these forces are quarks and gluons. The force carrier particle for the strong force is gluon, and these are the short range. As these are the short range forces, so these forces are much stronger in strength as compared to gravity, weak force and electromagnetism force. In this slide, we discussed thoroughly about the force carrier particles. As we discussed in our introductory lecture, that the objects or charges, anything that interact each other through some forces, these forces are carried by some particles. They are named as exchange particles or virtual particles. These are just imaginary particles. We can't see these particles with our eye. As we discussed in our nuclear physics 1, our main interest is the nuclear force that exists between protons and neutrons in the nucleus. The nuclear force is the force that holds protons and neutrons together in the nucleus. This is the force that is responsible for the nuclear stability. As we know that there are the protons also present in the nucleus. Following Coulomb's law, the charge of protons, that is positive 1, the same as protons are present in more than one number, so they may repel each other, tend to push them away from each other with the strong electric repulsive force. However, nuclear force is powerful, or you can say that much stronger than the Coulomb force that hold them together and overcome that barrier at close range. So we will discuss nuclear force in nuclear physics 1 thoroughly, because it leads the scattering, it leads the interactions that is happening inside the nucleus. All the reactions that take place due to the protons and the neutrons are held by the nuclear force. This is the force of our main interest when we discuss about the nucleus and the atoms. Here we discussed about the properties of the nuclear force. Nuclear force is a strong fundamental force in nature. As we discussed while describing about the 4 fundamental forces, we have noticed that nuclear force is the strong as compared to the other forces. As we discussed in our previous slide, that there is a Coulomb repulsive force that lies between the protons, as protons like charges repel each other. So it is stronger enough that you can say that the magnitude of the nuclear force between 2 protons is 100 times Coulomb repulsive force. It is due to the nuclear force that overcomes the Coulomb repulsive force between the protons and the 2 protons or many protons, although due to the presence of the repulsive force but exist in the nucleus. It is due to the nuclear force that is stronger enough for Coulomb's repulsive force to keep the protons bound in a very small nucleus. Nuclear force is mainly an attractive force. The variation of potential energy with the distance is shown in the graph. As you can see that potential energy is plotted along y-axis and the radius r is drawn along x-axis. As you can see in the graph, potential energy is released at a distance that is equal to 0.8 Fermi. When the distance between 2 nucleons is greater than the 0.8, that is R0, the nuclear forces are attractive. As the distance between them decreases and go below R0, this force becomes repulsive and becomes minimum, that is approximately equal to 0.8 Fermi, and increases rapidly, which avoids the collapsing of the nucleus. It means that as the distance between 2 nucleons decreases, these forces becomes repulsive. So nuclear force is mainly attractive for the distance greater than R0, that is in this graph is 0.8. As the distance goes higher, this force becomes attractive. Nuclear force is charge independent. This means that the interaction between nucleons is independent of whether one or both nucleons have a charge on them. In other words, we can understand it as that nuclear force between proton-proton, or obviously there is the interaction between proton and neutron neutron is same. whether it is the interaction between proton or proton, neutron or proton, and neutron. Nuclear force is same for all these interactions. Nuclear force is short range. The nuclear forces that exist between two nucleons when the distance is comparable to the size of the nucleus, that is equal to 10 to 15. This is the size of the nucleus in the order of 10 raised to power minus 15. A nucleon can interact with only its neighboring nucleon, just as an atom in solid form bonds only with the neighbor atoms. These forces are short range in the sense that when there are nucleons in the nucleus, these nucleons interact to the closely nucleon. So nuclear force is a short range force. Nuclear force is a saturated force. Nuclear force becomes zero when the distance between two nuclei is just about 3 Fermi. As we discussed earlier, the nuclear force is a short range force. A nucleon can interact with the nearest neighbor. So the nuclear force is a saturated force. The nucleons can attract only the nearest neighbor and has no influence on the other nucleons. Nuclear force becomes saturated in a medium or big nucleus itself. This is the properties of the nuclear forces. Now we will discuss about the interactions that are proton and neutron interactions. We have studied about the 4 fundamental forces. Then we discussed deeply about what is the nuclear force. We are interested in nuclear force as we discussed because it is the main force that binds our nucleons together. Now in this slide we will discuss how proton and neutron interactions occurs. What are the types of these interactions? So let's start our slide. There is one important difference between the scattering of identical nucleons. When identical nucleons like proton and neutrons interaction occurs, and as a result scattering occurs. And if the different nucleons like neutron or proton interact and scattering occurs, so there is the important difference. This difference comes about because the identical projectile and target nucleons must be described by a common wave function after the scattering. As we all know that our nucleons that are proton and neutrons have spin 1/2. Their wave function must be antisymmetric with respect to interchange of nucleons. If we consider low energy scattering, in low energy scattering we will take L is equal to 0. Here small l represent the quantum number. As we know that our identical and target nucleons are interacting with each other. So if we discuss about the spatial coordinates of the two particles, the interchanging of the spatial coordinates gives no change. It means that our initial and final coordinate remain same. As we are dealing with the same coordinates, so there is no change in the spatial coordinates when the nucleons interact with each other. Thus the wave function, we can say that for wave function for the nucleons for spatial coordinates remains same, and we can the wave function that remains same after the scattering is said to be symmetric. If we discuss about the spin of the nucleons and the wave function for the spin of the nucleons, it must be noted that as we discussed in this slide that for nucleons the spin is half, but the total spin after the scattering must be equal to 0. This is the condition for the interactions. As our spin changes in the value, so the wave function must be antisymmetric with respect to the spin. So we can say that the spin wave function must correspond to a total combined spin of 0, that is the spin orientation must be different. So spin wave function is antisymmetric as there is the change in the value of the spin. The spin wave function must correspond to a total spin of 0, so that total spin for the nucleus goes to 0. If we take the total spin, the spatial coordinates as we discussed earlier remain same or symmetrical. We discussed in previous slide that there is a lot of difference between proton-proton scattering and neutron-proton. Means to say that there is the difference between identical particle scattering and different particle scattering. Here is the table that represents the difference between neutron-proton scattering and proton-proton scattering. If we see the neutron-proton scattering, this is purely nuclear, short range and non-identical particles. In term short range non-identical particles, both are, as we know that both are different nucleons, so these are non-identical particles, and the force between neutron and proton is the strong nuclear force, so this type of scattering is purely nuclear. When we discuss about the proton-proton scattering, as we know that these are two same charged particles, so there must be the Coulomb forces, Coulomb repulsive forces, and there also the presence of the strong nuclear force. So this is the reaction in which nuclear plus Coulomb forces exist. Long range Coulomb interaction includes higher partial waves, and these, as we know that proton-proton are same particles, so these are identical particles. This is the table that represents the proton-proton scattering and the neutron-proton scattering. As we discussed about the interactions of the nucleons and discuss how the our spin changes and our spatial coordinates remain same. This is the wave function for that represent the interactions of the nucleons, that is antisymmetric, equals to psi space that represent the wave function for spatial coordinates. As we discussed in our previous slide that our spatial coordinates remain same, so it must be symmetric. As our final and initial coordinates are same, so it is symmetric. Chi spin represent the wave function for spin coordinates. As we discussed in our previous slide that our total spin must goes to 0, but for the individual nucleons the spin is half, so the value of this spin changes. As there is change, so wave function must be antisymmetric. This is the wave functions for the interaction of the nucleons, and wave function for the spatial coordinates and wave function for the spin coordinates. Following diagram in the next slide is the representation of the two identical particles. Means to that says that our particles of nucleons are same in the reference frame. Since the particles are identical, there is no experimental way to distinguish the two situations in the figure. The diagram will be discussed in the next slide. Let's go to the next slide. As we are discussing about the scattering of two identical particles, so scattered particles are identical. One particle is at angle theta with respect to our quadrant system, and second particle, that is proton, is at pi minus theta. As we said that our particles are identical, the scattered particle wave functions must therefore include contributions for scattering at theta and at pi minus theta. This is the basic diagram for the scattering of two identical particles, that are proton-proton. Now we will discuss about the proton-proton scattering. In scattering, when there is a scattering between proton-proton, the wave function must describe both Coulomb and nuclear scattering, as there are also Coulomb forces due to the repulsion of the protons, and nuclear forces occur as they bind the protons together in the nucleus. The differential cross-section that we will discuss in the next slide is defined as a scattering cross-section. Sigma, represented by sigma, is a quantity proportional to the rate at which a particular radiation target interactions occur. Means to say that it is the quantity at which our interaction or scattering occurs. Now we will discuss about the differential cross-section. As we discussed in previous slide about the differential scattering cross-section, that is the rate at which the scattering between two nucleons occurs. As we discussed in our previous slide, there is the scattering diagram that presents the scattering between two identical nucleons, one at theta and other one is pi minus theta. We will write the classical expression of cross section for that particles that scattered with one another. One particle is at theta with respect to coordinate system and other one at pi minus theta. Here the classical expression d sigma over d omega Cm represent classical mechanics, that is equal to d sigma over d omega. Here the term theta in bracket represent this expression for the particle that makes the angle theta, plus d sigma over d omega. Here the terms pi minus theta represents the angle that the particle makes the angle with reference line or coordinate system. In quantum mechanics, the scattering cross sections are basically derived from the wave functions. We have discussed these wave functions in our previous slide, where we discussed about what is the scattering and how there is the change in the scattering and what is the wave functions for spatial coordinates and the spin. And our wave function may be symmetric and antisymmetric. The total wave function for the whole phenomena for the scattering can be represented at psi r plus minus psi minus r. Here the negative sign and positive sign are respectively for a symmetric wave function and for an antisymmetric wave function. Positive sign must be written for the symmetric wave function, as we discussed in our previous slide that our spatial coordinates remain same. There is no change in the spatial coordinates and they are written as symmetric wave function, and our spin changes. Our individual nucleons has spin half while total spin is 0. So there is the change in the value of the spin and our wave function for spin is antisymmetric. So this is the classical expression for the differential scattering cross section and quantum mechanically how our cross section is represented. Whenever we discuss about the quantum mechanics, our wave function our scattering or any expression must be represented in the form of the wave functions. So here we discussed about the wave functions for the scattering, and our wave function may be symmetric and antisymmetric depending upon the situation. Positive sign for the wave function represent the symmetric wave function and negative sign represent the antisymmetric wave function. Means there must be any change in the initial value and the final value. Now we will discuss how we can write the differential scattering cross section expression classically. This is the basically derived formula for the cross section classically, that can be written as that d sigma over d omega, that is equal to e square over 4 pi epsilon naught whole square 1 over 4 d square into 1 over sine power 4 theta over 2 plus 1 over cos power 4 theta over 2 minus cos eta l and t square theta by 2 over sine square theta by 2 cos square theta over 2 bracket close minus 2 over eta sine sigma naught bracket start cos sigma naught plus eta ln sine square theta by 2 over sine square theta by 2 bracket close plus cos sigma plus eta ln cos square theta over 2 over cos square theta by 2 our bracket closed plus 4 by n square sine square sigma naught. These are all terms we will study in the upcoming slide. This is the basically derived differential cross section formula classically. Here eta is equal to e square over 4 pi epsilon naught h cut c dot 1 over beta. In the above term, t represent the kinetic energy of incident proton, assuming that our target proton is at rest. Theta is the scattering angle in the center of mass system. So is the L is equal to 0. Phase shift for pure nuclear scattering is represented by eta, whose value is eta is equal to e square over 4 pi epsilon naught h cut square dot 1 over beta. The term in the bracket e square over 4 pi epsilon naught h cut c is represented by alpha. Our expression become eta is equal to alpha over beta. As we discussed in above expression, T represents the kinetic energy of incident proton. We assume that our incident proton is moving with some velocity while target proton is at rest. In the expression, eta is equal to alpha over beta. Alpha is the fine structure constant whose value is nearly equal to 1 over 37, and beta, that is equal to V over C, is the dimensionless relative velocity of the protons, where V represents the velocity of the proton and C is the speed of the light. Now we will discuss briefly about the 6 terms that are included in calculating the differential cross-section formula classically. As we discussed briefly about the formula for differential cross-section for scattering classically, now we will discuss about the terms that are included in calculating the formula for cross-section. As we discussed in our previous slide, that T is the kinetic energy of the proton. Now we will discuss briefly about the 6 terms that are in the brackets. These terms can be identified as the first term in the bracket represent the Coulomb scattering. As we are discussing about the proton scattering, there must be a Coulomb repulsive forces. So first term is used for calculating the characteristics of the Coulomb scattering. Second terms, as we know that two particles are identical, we are dealing with proton scattering. We cannot tell the case in which the incident protons comes out theta and the target proton at pi minus theta from the case in which the incident proton comes out at pi minus theta and the target proton at theta. It means that it becomes difficult when there is the which one is the incident proton and which one is target proton when there is the scattering between the identical particles. Thus the scattering cross section must include a Coulomb characteristic term at pi minus theta. Third term explains the scattering interference at theta and at pi minus theta. If we discuss about the fourth and fifth term, these two terms result from the interference between Coulomb and nuclear scattering. As we know that during proton scattering there must be a Coulomb term and also the nuclear scattering due to the nuclear forces. So there must be the interference between Coulomb and nuclear scattering. In order to calculate these type of the scattering, we will use fourth and fifth term. Sixth one term is pure nuclear scattering. Basically, this is the scattering that will result from the nuclear force that holds the protons. As we know that they are same charges and also repel each other, but this is due to the nuclear force that holds the proton together in the nucleus. When there is the proton scattering, obviously there is also the nuclear scattering. So sixth term, in order to calculate this type of the nuclear scattering, we will use sixth term in the bracket. So in this slide we have thoroughly discussed about the formula that we have discussed in our previous slide. What are the terms included in this formula? There are 6 terms, and which term is used to calculate Coulomb scattering, Coulomb interference, Coulomb and nuclear scattering. So this is basically the classical formula for the cross section. This is the brief expression and brief discussion of the previous formula. We have previously discussed about the differential cross section for scattering classically. Now we will discuss differential scattering cross section quantum mechanically. Differential scattering cross section quantum mechanically can be written as d sigma over d omega. Here qm represent the quantum mechanics is equal to f plus minus theta square. That goes into the equation d sigma over d omega quantum mechanically is equal to f theta, at which one particle scattered plus minus f pi minus theta square, that is the angle of the second particle. Now we'll block in expression in the block represent the quantum expression. The third part in this expression represents the interference term. As scattering occurs, there may be chances that interference also occurs. So in quantum expression, third part represents the interference term. This results it is due to the identical natures of the particles. As we discussed earlier classically concept, now this result shows the quantum mechanically differential scattering cross section for identical nature of the particles. If we consider the scattering at theta is equal to pi by 2 for proper comparison of cross sections, we have d sigma over d omega classically is equal to 2 d omega over d sigma at pi by 2 that we are considering. Then quantum mechanically we got the result d sigma over d omega quantum mechanically is equal to 2 d sigma over d omega at pi by 2 plus minus 2r into bracket inside the bracket f pi by 2 f steric pi by 2 bracket closed. We got equation 4 by solving the above equation quantum mechanically, that is d sigma over d omega quantum mechanically equals to d sigma over d omega at pi by 2 plus minus d sigma over d omega pi by 2. As you can see that our relation is double value. Their relation 4 shows the two values. If we solve these equation 4, we will get d sigma over d omega quantum mechanically is equal to 4 and 0. 4 values shows the constructive interference and 0 value destructive interference. As we discussed in our previous slide, here is the term that shows the interference phenomena. So it may be constructive interference, it may be destructive interference. After solving the equation 4, we have equation 5 that shows the value of 4 for constructive interference and 0 value for destructive interference. As we discussed in our previous slide, that if we put theta is equal to pi by 2, our equation goes for two types of scattering. It may be constructive scattering and it may be destructive scattering. Equation 4 shows that for constructive scattering there is a positive contribution from space. It means that wave function for space is symmetric. Space wave function, for space wave function we can write it L is equal to 0 to 4 and so on. We will take even values for L, but our spin wave function must be antisymmetric, means to say that its value change. This shows that there is a singlet scattering. But when we discussed about the destructive scattering, as we have derived the value in equation 4 in previous slide, it shows that there is a negative space contribution from space, that this means its wave function is antisymmetric. So we can write space wave functions as L is equal to 1, 3, 5 and but in destructive scattering our spin wave function is symmetric. This implies triplet scattering. There are two cases that can be discussed as a result of identical spin half particles for energy less than 10 mega electron volt only. As partial wave interaction occurs for L is equal to 0, and in S waves we can say that PP scattering, proton scattering only. Singlet scattering contributes to the total cross section at theta is equal to pi by 2. We can say that our signal scattering contributes, but triplet scattering goes forbidden because it disobeys the Pauli's principle. This is the results of the quantum mechanics for the proton scattering. In this slide, we will discuss about the experimental results for the quantum mechanical cross section. It shows good agreement with the quantum mechanical cross sections According to Pauli's principle, as we know that for two fermions, our proton and neutron are two fermions, total wave function must be antisymmetric. Total wave function, as we know that discussed in previous slides, is equal to the wave function of for space and wave function for the spin. It shows that total wave function is the product of spatial wave function that is represented by psi space and spin wave function that is equal to chi spin. So equation 6 represents the total wave function for the quantum mechanical cross section. As for we have discussed briefly about the proton-proton scattering. We have derived the formulas for the cross section of protons quantum mechanically and the classically. Now we will discuss about what is the neutron-neutron scattering. As neutrons are chargeless particles, so their scattering doesn't involve the Coulomb repulsive terms. That made the analysis of proton-proton much complicated than neutron-neutron scattering. As we discussed when we derived the cross-section formulas for proton-proton scattering, there must be the involvement of the Coulomb repulsive forces. That makes our derivation much complicated. Here the difficulty in an experiment one, although beams of neutrons are available but the target of free neutrons are not available in the laboratory, so measurement of neutron scattering parameters requires that we use a nuclear reaction to first create the neutron in relative motion within the range of each other's nuclear force. Basically, we have no free neutrons. In order to target the one neutron with the other, we have to produce it in the nuclear reaction where we have two neutrons that move with each other in the range of each other. A third particle also create in the reaction when we produce two neutrons in a reaction, and this third particle interact with both produced two neutrons. This is the basically neutron scattering that is much easier and simple as compared to the proton as there are no repulsive forces, but in the neutron scattering, as we discussed, there are no availability of free neutrons. So to produce neutron scattering, there must be a reaction in which neutrons are produced that are in the range of each other. As far we have discussed about the proton scattering, now we will study about neutron-proton scattering. This is the basically difference between proton and neutron-proton scattering. You can see that due to identical particle nature in proton scattering, Pauli's principle allows only singlet scattering. There is no triplet scattering when there is the proton scattering. Whereas when we discuss about the neutron-proton scattering, due to the different natures of the particles, both singlet and triplet scatterings are allowed. This is the basic and major difference between proton and neutron-proton scattering. Two must be compared with singlet state scattering only. This is if we want to compare the neutron-proton and proton scattering, we will compare the singlet state scattering only, as there are no triplet scattering states in proton system. So basically, if we want to compare the both types of scattering, we must involve the single state scattering only. This is the basic difference between neutron-proton scattering and proton scattering. Now we will study briefly about neutron-proton scattering. As we are going to discuss the neutron-proton scattering at high energies, basically this type of scattering is very necessary for the study of exchange force model that we have briefly discussed in our first lecture. While studying the cross-section in NP scattering, it must be noted that there is a strong peak at forward angles when angles goes to theta is equal to 0 degree, corresponding to a small momentum transfer between the projectile and the target. We can estimate the extent of this forward peak by studying the maximum momentum transfer in the following two ways. For some small deflection angles, we can write as sine theta approximately equals to theta and cos theta goes to equal 1. In the next slide, we will discuss the differential cross section area differential cross section for the neutron proton scattering at different energies. This is the basically graph for the neutron proton differential cross sections at medium energies. We have taken theta along x-axis and differential cross section for neutron proton scattering along y-axis. You can see that the strong forward scattering peak near 0 theta is equal to 0 is expected, but the equally strong backward peak occurs at an angle that is equal to 180 degree is the evidence or proof for the exchange force. It is the experimentally proof that scientists are expecting that there must be a strong forward scattering peak at theta is equal to 0, but there will also the backward peak at 180 degree, which shows that there is some exchange force. This is the proof of the exchange force model, that when there is the scattering there must be some exchange force while interacting the two particles. Now we will study the scattering of neutron and proton at small angles. When the angle lies between theta is equal to 0 degree to 10 degree approximately, the interaction between neutron and proton can be drawn as in the diagram. It was shown that when neutron and proton, two different particles, interact at relatively small angles, the characters of the particles remain the same before and after interaction. The condition that the particles' characteristics remain same is that the interaction must occur at small angles that may be lies between 0 to 10 degree. So when the angle is small, their scattering is shown in the diagram. This is the scattering of neutron and proton at small angles. As we discussed in previous slide, the scattering of neutron and proton at relatively small angles. We have discussed at small angles their characteristics remain same, but when their interactions occur at relatively large angles, approximately equal to 180 degree, we think rather than move forward, when the scattered the nucleons move backward and their characteristics changes accordingly. So at large angle we can say that their characteristics changes that remain unchanged at small angles. This shows the interaction of neutron and proton at relatively high angles. For small deflection angles, sine theta approximately goes equal to theta. As you can see the diagram on the right hand side, in this triangle, P is the momentum of the incident particle and delta P is represented as the transverse momentum that is added during the collision of the two particles. We can write the momentum into the average force as del P is equal to F delta T. Here F is the average force that acts during the time delta T. Delta T is the time of the interaction, neutron and proton interaction. If B is the range of the force, we can write the range is defined as the time when the is for which the particle interact. If we count the range represented by B, our delta T can be written as delta T is equal to B over V, S is equal to V over T. This formula S is equal to VT. This formula is used to calculate the time delta T. Here as we know that in equation S is equal to Vt. S is the distance. We take this distance as the range of the average force during the collision or interaction of the neutron and proton. As we know that F is equal to minus dV over dr. If we represent d by delta, it becomes F is equal to minus del V over del r, as del approximately is very small. So we can write as F is equal to V naught over B. Our average force, we can say that should be the order of V naught over B, where V naught is the depth of the nucleon square well potential. Theta becomes F delta T over P. We have used the first equation. By putting the value of the force, we can write it as theta is equal to 1 over P dot F, as we know that V naught over B, into delta T. We have value of delta T B over V. In this equation, V naught is the depth of the nucleon square well potential, and V is the velocity. So we can take theta is equal to V naught over PV. This is our final equation. In this equation, P is the momentum and V is the velocity. If you want to represent our equation in terms of the kinetic energy, we can write, now that there is a relation between momentum and the kinetic energy. Using this relation, our theta becomes theta is equal to V naught over 2T, where T is the projectile kinetic energy. For the given energies, this formula gives the value of theta in the range of 10 degree or smaller. We certainly don't expect to see peak at 180 degree. This is the experimentally proved. Although it is tempting to regard this backward peak in the center of mass frame as a result of head-on collision in which the incident particle has its motion reversed. This is all about neutron-proton scattering. We have discussed about neutron-proton scattering at low energy and high energies. Thank you so much, students. Hopefully you have understand the scattering. We have thoroughly discussed about the scattering, proton scattering, neutron scattering, proton-neutron scattering. Thank you so much.